dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Eric Hersey. How are you tonight, Eric?
Jim, I'm doing fantastic, and there's been a decent amount of news coming out over the last couple of days, and some exciting videos and still images of really the land that I'm looking forward to the most at Epic Universe. Have you seen the monsters?
Well, yeah, and in fact, to give Universal credit here, they dropped this info a day or so ago, didn't they? Just before Halloween. By the way, we're recording this on Wednesday, October 30th. So one more day officially till Halloween, though I imagine this show will air after that. So yeah, it made sense for them this close to Halloween to push the monsters out. But yeah, what was your take on the video and the info that Universal Creative shared?
Jim, I'm not an animatronics guy. I don't know much about those. I'll know a lot more because I heard you and Lauren just interviewed Garner Holt, and that's all about animatronics. So I'm excited for that to come out. But right now, I'm kind of a novice. Like the animatronics level of mine, I think the Navi right now and the Pandora ride is like the top one I've seen. But the Wicked Witch of the West was fantastic, and I know there's different iterations. These ones seemed very fluid. I know in the original release of the Dark Universe video that they had the Wolfman and you did not even know it was animatronic. Somebody had to still frame it and Zapruder film it and be like, hey, that's not a real guy. So seeing it up close, the detail is amazing on these. And you could see, they showed Frankenstein, they showed Dracula, the Wolfman, and then our friend Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, and forgive me for being that guy, but Creature from the Black Lagoon as a kid was the one that scared me. The Mummy, I gotta run that guy. But on the other hand, the notion of something below you in the water, potentially grabbing you, pulling you down. So I watched all of the Creature from the Black Lagoons, and here's the thing, folks. In the film from the 50s, the Creature from the Black Lagoon doesn't have teeth. And so for this one to have piranha.
Oh my, they are teeth. They are teeth.
But now, interesting thing. I was chatting with our friend and collaborator, veteran Imaginator Jim Schul, just about these today. And Mr. Schul has an interesting theory about why the Creature from the Black Lagoon has teeth now. In fact, what's kind of interesting, and I know we've talked on previous shows of episodes of this podcast about the early version of the Jaws shark at the universe, and how
carrot teeth. Is that what he was? Carrot teeth.
Carrot teeth. Okay, but as Mr. Schul pointed out, I said you don't understand. Okay, that carrot teeth, you're on the tram tour, you're driving by him, and you have 1,000, 1,000 to see the character, and that's it. And so for those 2 seconds, that thing really has to register. So that's why when they designed the shark for the backstage tram tour in Hollywood, the way they did, the notion was we really want this to register because he's leaping out of the water and we want you to know he's the shark from Jaws and has a mouthful of teeth. And so Schul suggested that wherever the Creature from the Black Lagoon appears in the Frankenstein laboratory ride is going to be so quick that in order for him to register, and also that's why his teeth are bright yellow.
That's
that he's dark green. He's going to be hard to pick out anyway. And
right.
But anyway, that's why he has a mouthful of yellow teeth. And that he probably doesn't brush and floss as often as one should.
No.
But
lots of seaweed and plaque. But I think, Jim, if he's in there quickly, there's been a lot of rave reviews. A lot of people like myself looks great. And we're like, that is a character that absolutely want to see. But you're saying, I believe in a previous episode, there's like an extension pad or expansion pad that there was talks possibly. So maybe if he's a big hit, maybe he's only there for a brief second because he has to run and get to his own attraction, right?
Well,
At
there
least
we
that's what
go.
I'm,
There we
or
go.
swim, I should say.
We
That's what I'm hoping for.
we can only hope.
But Jim, I listened. So it just fresh off the press today that there was Universal has a Discover Universal podcast, right? I don't know if you've listened. It's very Universal driven. I mean, it's pretty much they have their agenda and it's nice and all. But they had a couple Imagineers or the individuals that worked on the show today in that area. So they released that today, and they did talk more about that attraction. It turns out there's 14 animatronics, 14 monsters in this. And they did slip up, and I heard him say the Mummy too. So we haven't seen anything the Mummy, but I'm pretty sure. And they kind of gave some of the backstory that this Victoria Frankenstein is capturing these. She's trying to capture the monsters and try to get them to conform, so to speak, and live amongst all of us. And her big catch, of course, is Dracula, and that's where all the things go bad. So it was interesting to listen to, and I'm really, really excited about this ride. And they wouldn't say, I mean, it is a PG-13. They wouldn't go out and say it wasn't scary for kids. It was a matter of like,
no.
So
another thing that Mr. Schull and I were talking about today, and again, I noticed this earlier and was quizzing him about it. If you look at the map for Epic Universe, the Helios Hotel, their high-end, beautiful deluxe hotel, is actually bookended. On the left, it's Dark Universe, and on the right, it's Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic. And it's one of these things where, in hindsight, it's like, okay, I've got my $400 lovely hotel room, and I'm trying to put the kids to sleep, but every so often here's
right.
Scream, I mean, I'm sure the hotel will have lovely soundproofing, but it's just sort of like, oh, maybe that placement was not the smartest way to go.
Yeah, how about the fire on the windmill? That's your alarm every now and then. You're like,
Well,
well, trying to go to sleep, but this bright light kept coming up every so often. So, and they talked about that a little bit. So it's pretty exciting. And with that being said, I am more and more excited to get my butt down there. And we're looking at June. We're hoping it's not sold out. But of course, before we go down there, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we have Touring Plans, who is the sponsor of pretty much the show today, right, Jim?
This is true. And just a quick nod to our sponsor here. Of course, the Epic Universal Podcast is sponsored by TouringPlans.com. And Touring Plans helps you save time and money at theme parks like Universal and Disney. So please check them out at touringplans.com. Now, to pivot to the actual news segment of today's show, you just mentioned the Epic Universal theme park, and of course, needing tickets to get into this ambitious new project, which again opens May 22nd of next year. But that got a little bit more challenging this week, didn't it?
Well, I'm surely not. Well, firstly, I'm not an annual pass. That was a big decision that we had to make when we went last time, because we've done the math. And if you go for Disney, it's for us. You pretty much have to go like 7 to 10 days and you should get an annual pass, right? So we were trying to do that math here for Universal before we booked. And I said, listen, Lauren, I co-host a Universal podcast. I think we're going to be coming back, right? So I was like, should we buy an annual pass? But the rumor mill was always, well, you're not going to be able to get a single day. And it turns out there was an option, but it sold out immediately for those that were looking to get a single day pass. And I think it was around $156 a day. But for the annual pass holders, you still can up until at least until the end of the calendar year. There's individual days that you can buy one individual pass. So it's kind of, you can walk the other parks within the price, but if you want to go to Epic, you can buy an individual day pass, which I think is nice for the annual pass holders, and also kind of understandable that, Epic wants to be able to leverage, Universal wants to leverage not just everybody flooding to the one park and the other ones be empty.
Oh, no. It makes perfect sense. And obviously, there's going to be, given so many of these state-of-the-art attractions, there's going to be huge demand. People are going to want to get into that park. So, I mean, make hay while the sun shines. You want to get in, you got to buy this package. You got to stay at this hotel. It'll be interesting to see come year two, but
Right. Yeah, there's going to be people, I think, from an annual pass perspective, and I think that's one of the reasons we didn't budge, because I
mhm,
was like, well, I want to go to Epic, and if I'm gonna buy an annual pass and then find out I have to buy more, I can just buy a 3 day. So I personally, and Lauren and I aren't very upset about the 3 day mandate, because we'd be buying that anyway. But I can understand where maybe some of the annual pass holders and those that feel like, hey, I've already paid for this, I should get into the new park, could be a little concerned. But I can't imagine they'll keep that longer. I imagine annual
mhm,
passes will go up, because I think the value of those prices will probably go up, but we'll see. I don't know when normally that happens. I know that
mhm.
just happened with Walt Disney World, and I don't know if they're in the same boat or not.
No, I mean, I think Universal, with an eye toward playing the long game here, has been sort of artificially tamping down prices when it comes to annual passes and that sort of thing. The notion of we want to be Orlando's affordable alternative. But again, affordable is a relative term given what it costs to get into a theme park these days.
Yeah, for sure.
We were just mentioning staying at the hotels there at around Epic Universe to get into the new park, and one of these hotels will be opening a little later than originally announced. Is that correct?
Right, right. So the Terra Luna Resort is actually, it was supposed to open in February, and I think they moved it back to March. Which
Hmm.
I guess anybody that already pre-booked, they're calling people now and moving them, trying to get everybody to move over to the Stella Nova
Hmm.
Resort. But I mean, obviously, it'll still be open well in time, and I'm not sure. I don't think there was any information released on if it was construction or
Hmm.
maybe just back of house trying to get transportation. There's a lot of reasons why they could have delayed that. And maybe they're just putting all their forces on the Stella Nova and said, all right, leave this one aside and we'll deal with it at the end of the month when the other one's open. Do you have any idea or reasoning you think that they would delay just a month?
Well, what's interesting is we're hearing that excuse me, the Disney has cast members, Universal has team members, and we're hearing there that team members are already on the ground in the parks and at the hotels beginning training. So it
Okay.
might actually be a situation where they're holding back the Terra Luna
Oh,
with the idea that if anything, it's supposed to be a sister resort of the Stella Nova. Perhaps the notion is we're doubling up on training, and the folks who help open the Stella Nova will then schlep on over to the Terra Luna. So maybe it's training related.
Jim, they could have all the construction workers and stuff. If they need to pull all nighters, they're just say, go back here, stay here to get this park open, right? So
Mhm.
who knows? But yeah, it's delayed a little bit. So we'll see how that goes as time goes. And I can't remember which one Lauren was booking. She was booking one of these two. We're going to get a couple and try to figure that out for when we go down in June. So
Makes
we're
sense.
excited.
Mhm.
Nonetheless, whichever one, they both seem very similar. I couldn't really tell you the difference unless you
Mhm.
really had to pull up the two. So I don't think anybody's going to be super upset that they didn't get to do the Terra Luna and they have to do the Stella Nova if that was on their
No,
agenda.
I get that, and of course, as we mentioned at the top of today's show, folks, that we're recording this episode on October 30th, and for those of you who enjoy the Halloween Horror Nights, both in Hollywood and Orlando, the Orlando version comes to a close, the 2024 edition. On November 3rd, this coming Sunday,
Right.
though a place where horror, you know, the sun will never set on a horror out in Vegas, right?
Right.
And in fact, I kind of apologize here, folks, because we're recording on the 30th, we don't get to share the cool info that I guess Universal Creative is going to drop tomorrow, right?
So we believe. So they went on X and there was a welcome to a fresh new hell is
Mhm,
what it was and spinning in a roulette style on theirs. And they've been doing really good. They love dates.
mhm,
Universal loves to promote dates. I mean, that's how we got all the announcements of Epic Lands and so forth.
mhm,
But we know that this has been going on I mean, they've been building this and hyping this since we started talking in January. At least I know of this project, but it's the first year round horror experience. So I can't say I've dug into it too deeply. I mean, I haven't been out to Vegas. I'm not really sure where it's at per se or what exactly they're doing. But I think for those that love the Halloween Horror Nights, this is your option. That if you're like, it's February and maybe it's Valentine and you don't have a Valentine and you just want a little taste of that October, head out to Las Vegas and you'll be able to get yourself a little Halloween treat, so to speak. So what do you know about this, Jim?
Well, I have seen a site plan. And what's fascinating about what they're doing is that this has 4 dedicated, for lack of a better term, mazes, houses, however you describe these things that Universal typically does. But these are purpose built. And at some point in the future, Eric, we're going to get you down there at the very least. I mean, based on what you said about your kids and Lauren.
Just me. Just terrify me, Jim. But they'll be there, but they'll stay in the hotel room, I'm sure.
Okay. So, but you'll get to experience this and the crazy level of detail. But again, it's all something that's built over a couple of months and then torn down, and then they build a brand new one or 12 brand new ones the following year. And what's different about this is purpose built from day one, crafted with illusions and effects that the folks in Orlando and Hollywood can only dream of. The notion of, oh my God, we're building something not for 5 months, but for 5 years. It's like, oh, this will be killer. But what's interesting is there's a giant common area where you can effectively hang out in between doing the various houses. There'll be bars, there'll be quick service food there will be a merch location. And again, what's also kind of intriguing about this is it's a dual purpose facility. With the idea being that, of course, during the night in Vegas being Vegas, this is when the tourists, the folks who are in town to gamble and are looking for something fun, will go there. But also remember, Vegas is a big convention town, and this will be during the day. The notion of, oh, you're here for the Consumer Electronics Show, and your company, as a team building episode, rents out the horror place from 10 in the morning till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's like, yeah, go get a coffee and a donut and then get the crap scared out of you.
Oh, that's the way to. Yeah, if you got an employee that's not meeting their expectations, you need to scare them a little bit. You send them there. What a great retreat!
There we go.
HR will get no calls whatsoever. Well, I think it'll be exciting, Jim. It seems like their Universal is trying a couple different things that if they hit, you could see kind of maybe expand, like pop up into bigger cities or these tourist markets. Something like this would be awesome to have, where you don't necessarily have to go to Florida or Hollywood. You can have these other ones, and what they're doing on the other side, which with kids in Texas, is exciting. So I think this is something we're gonna, for all you guys out there, I hope they had a great announcement on Halloween, and we'll talk about it probably next week. But Jim, I think before we hit to the weekly Wicked news, I say we take a real quick break. We come back, we talk a little Wicked, and we talk about the holiday offerings that just came out for Universal.
Makes sense. Let's do that.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
And we're back. All right. So, look, Eric's not wrong. We have to report on Wicked. It's a Universal.
Obligated. Everyone at this point in time, 1 out of 3 Americans have to say Wicked once a day.
Well, but the interesting thing is the movie, the first film of the 2, is complete, and we know this because they did a screening, God help us, for the Kardashians.
I saw that.
Yes. And there were a number of people who were like, well, now I don't want to see it. It's
Oh,
like, oh, the Kardashians.
it's called influencers gone bad. Yes, I had that same taste of like, really? And
Mhm.
no offense to the Kardashians, I've not met them.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it didn't necessarily give me the biggest warm and fuzzies.
Well, now, just to so to put this in perspective, they have since shown the finished film, and again, this is the finished, basically the first act of the Broadway musical, and they've shown this to a bunch of the Alpha Buzz and Galindas that actually played the role on Broadway, and in fact, it was Christine Chenoweth of all people who played the original Galinda on Broadway, who just tweeted out about this. And it's what she basically says. Somebody at Universal now is very happy they decided to do this, because she said, counting down the days till the world sees Cynthia and Ariana, and that's the two talented young ladies who are playing Elphaba and Galinda in the film, in John M. Chu's movie version. You will all be changed for the good when you see it. So, and the interesting thing is, all of this promotion, and every time I turn around, there's something new hyping
I
this.
saw a Target ad.
There we go.
A
There
big
we
Target
go.
ad. I mean, we know the Starbucks, we know all that at this point in
Yep.
time. And I saw she tweet. I also got clickbaited, and I clicked
Mhm.
on one of the articles that, because they made it out like she was appalled by it, but no, she was just glowing from a
Mhm.
tweet and an Instagram. So she's all about it and talking about it in tears.
Mhm.
And I think the memes or the emojis that we're going to be using is a pink and a green heart. So get used to that now, guys. Put it in your favorites, so when you're texting everyone, you can use your pink and your green heart. Jim, that's how I'm
And
gonna put the show notes out.
okay, okay, makes sense. Now, and clearly, all of this promotional effort is paying off, at least in regard to the advanced ticket sales, right? I mean,
Right.
what is it? Fandango has reported that they've had the second best year to date advanced sales on this. In fact, I think the
Oh,
only film that did better this year was Deadpool and Wolverine. But you came across some additional info about that, right?
well, I looked up on Screen Rant, and it's still a foreign language. Slowly but
Mhm,
surely, I'm learning how this whole opening box office and what's a good movie number and so forth. But it looks like
mhm,
according to Box Office Pro, it's
mhm,
projected to get 100 to 125 million domestic
mhm.
opening weekend, which is
Okay.
would be the best of the year behind, like you said, Deadpool. Inside Out was 155, and then Beetlejuice was 111 million. So
Mhm,
I guess maybe somewhat of just turned 40 male. I didn't necessarily get excited about Wicked, but I think
mhm.
there's a lot of other people out there that are excited, and that this could be a big, big thing. And the marketing, is not going to go to waste.
And speaking of the marketing, we talked a little bit on a previous episode of the Epic Universal podcast about these wicked experiences, and I guess the Halloween or the Hollywood one is either up and running or
Oh,
is
yeah.
about to go to run.
Right. Actually, friend of the show, Ashley, she shared some pictures of her actually in one of the shops at
Oh.
Universal Hollywood. She sent it over on Instagram and was showing the drinks and the
Mhm,
decorations, and everything looked great. So, I mean, it
mhm,
looks like there's a feature presentation store. Now, mind you guys, I haven't been to Hollywood yet, so this is still
mhm.
foreign territory. So correct me,
Okay.
Jim, if I'm way off. But the feature
Mhm,
presentation store has basically reopened, and that has the shirts. There's candles, dolls,
mhm.
drinkware, more. And
Okay.
then they have what Hollywood and Dine, which that's where the menu is, and it's a
Mhm.
bewitching bacon burger, a drismatic corn dog, and an osmopolitan, which is really clever. That
Okay.
is that you
I,
didn't like it? I thought that
I
was good.
Well, look, this time of year, Universal really puts on the dog, so to speak, when it comes to food. Because, of course, we're just coming out of the Halloween Horror Nights, which again ends on November 3rd. But if we jump ahead nearly 3 weeks on the November 22nd, we get holidays at
Right.
Universal Orlando. And this year, in fact, we just got an announcement today about it that okay, well, when we were pre-gaming, there's an offering here that is really tempting, right?
Right. So, and Jim, as soon as this came out today, I went to YouTube and I watched 4 or 5 bloggers and them going through all the Universal stuff from last year because I'm like, all right, holidays. So my family actually has we're going down there for a day
Mhm,
early in December. And I'm
mhm,
like, how am I going to do all this? Because we want to get down there and do all the holiday stuff. So real
mhm.
quick, let's just talk about some of the stuff they have.
Okay.
We know about Grinchmas, right? I knew that
Mhm.
that was a thing. There's a Dr. Seuss land, so you can meet the
Yep.
Grinch. They make
Mhm,
this a huge ordeal, and they
mhm,
have what the Hula Day special,
mhm.
spectacular. Um, which I just learned is that in the Blue Man groups, like where the old Blue Man group show is?
Ah,
I don't know. So I was trying to figure out where in that land the
now
Hula Day special spectacular would be.
previously, that now you have to understand that there are some sound stages in between Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida. Now, previous years, they have staged the Grinchmas show in that soundstage.
Okay.
There's a full set and have lovely tiered seating. They do a great job. But you're not wrong. They do have that Blue Man Group theater just sitting there. I wonder if they have shuffled it in there.
Well, I don't know. So that's kind of what I was watching with some of these people that were going. But I hear it, that show itself is not that easy to get into. I mean, it's always packed because it's a big elaborate show. So it's one of
Mhm.
those things where you actually want to do that. And then meeting the Grinch can be up to 2-3 hours to wait for him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
that is one of the offerings. The other thing is during what at Hogsmeade there is a projection show at nighttime that I hear
Mhm.
is also pretty darn busy, and you have to find your spot and camp out.
Mhm.
Not to mention that there are, you can meet Santa Claus or
Mhm.
you can meet Santa Claus there.
Mhm.
Plus, there's the Macy's parade,
Yep.
which really surprised. I didn't realize they were actually like real life balloons. I just thought like, but they are, right?
They are. Now, mind you, they are not the balloons from the actual parade in New York, but they are, they're custom built for this, offering at the Universal, Studios Florida. Still incredibly impressive.
But they're not cardboard cutouts that people are holding pretending. Like I wasn't sure
Mhm,
like exactly how they pulled that off. But the reason I'm even mentioning this because the holiday offer that they have is essentially you can buy like a premium like a universal holiday tour and
there
kind
we
of
go.
get exclusive access to all this.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
if the parade is important, which I'm like, how are we going to get all this done in one day? Jump
yep,
park to park, do all this
mhm,
stuff. I don't want to wait 3 hours for the Grinch. Well, you
mhm,
have an exclusive meet and greet with the Grinch, and or you also have one with Santa Claus, and this is what I understand the only way to meet them.
mhm,
And you'll get to meet Max as well. So not just the Grinch. So if you're a fan of animals, you
mhm,
get to meet Max too. You'll get some like desserts and non-alcoholic beverages.
mhm,
You'll get reserved seatings for Grinchmas Hula Day, so you won't
mhm,
have to, camp out there. And this is what kind of got me because I'm excited for it. After
mhm.
hour showing of the Magic of Christmas at Hogwarts Castle. So
Yeah.
less people, Jim, that's I'm like, don't have to fight through it and take that valuable time because I'm
Mhm,
still new. I want to go down there and get a whole bunch of stuff done and
mhm,
ride all the attractions and do all the holiday stuff, but I don't have to want to wait for 3 hours to meet the Grinch and wait 2 hours to be there for the projection.
mhm.
So, and then you also will get priority access to the Illuminations Villain Con. So I think that's a pretty good deal. So what does that run in?
Well, now, just to be clear here, this is an add-on. I mean,
Right.
you in order to do the Universal Holiday Tour, which by the way, not offered every day. The holidays at Universal runs again from the November 22nd through December 31st. On the other hand, this holiday tour is only offered on select dates from November 25th through the 29th. So just want to put that in front of mind for folks. But before you purchase this, you do have to already have theme park admission, and
Right.
you have to, and this you need to park because you are going to be traveling between the two parks. But
Right.
if you've got that all taken care of, this is $79.99 per person, and in a lightning lane world, all
Right.
right, where I'm paying $20 to get on Tron Light Cycle Run, getting this much show and this much access, during one of the busiest times of the year at Universal and getting to sample this many of their holiday offerings, I got to say that's a bargain.
Right. And this is where it's really funny, Jim, because I'm kind of, when you talk to me about Disney, not
Mhm,
a chance I would do that because I've done everything, right? Because it's
mhm,
so like it's really fun to put myself back into like the less veteran, because at Disney it's like, yeah, I'm not going to pay anything extra because I've been
mhm,
there, done that. I don't need to do this. But now going down and saying I have limited time, I have to
mhm,
put myself in the shoes of like, yeah, I think that might be a good value. And I mean, it's a family of 5, so it's going to cost a lot more, but
mhm.
the amount that I'm going to be able to cram into the day, because let's face it, I want to do Velocicoaster. I want to go ahead and, I essentially want to do ET 5 times, Jim.
Wow. You've never told me about that head injury you must have had.
I
5
know. Well,
times?
listen,
Wow.
Jim. No,
Okay. No.
there's a reason my son is dressed up as ET tomorrow, is because we have,
Oh, that's
right.
true.
Come on.
That's true. Miles,
There.
in fact, by the way, I want to share the story. Miles, in his ET outfit, actually won the Halloween costume contest at his school, right?
Not just the school. It was at the big spooktacular event up at our sports complex. So he competed against hundreds, and I'll tell you what got him. And it's the
Mhm.
people of the right age. The
Yeah,
fact is, the judges were all of the age that liked ET, and of
there we
course, we
go.
gave him a glowing finger and a tan glove, and he went up to touch their
Oh,
finger. He stuck his finger out. How do you not vote for that kid?
oh,
So no,
genius,
so
genius.
yeah. But
So,
speaking of birthdays, real quick, it is my son Hunter's birthday. So happy birthday, Hunter, if you're listening. On the day
oh,
of dropping, November 1st. So, but
wow.
no, it's we're excited for the holidays. I think it's one of those things that we're going to do. And I
Mhm.
I know over the next couple, episodes, we'll probably talk more into holidays, because I have questions about Earl the squirrel. Just
Okay.
discovered this. I'm like, who is this guy? What is going
Um,
on? And now and I'm gonna have to ask you, and you're gonna have to tell some stories, but not today, Jim.
Okay, no. That. Forgive me, but Earl the Squirrel is such a rabbit hole, but great fun. Yeah, but yes, we will do that on a future episode of the Epic Universal Podcast. Though that said, in order for there to be future episodes of the Epic Universal Podcast, we kind of have to shut this one down now, don't we? Or
I think so. I think so. So, Jim, if anybody wants to see the pictures of ET and Elliot, my daughter and my son, win their contest, follow me on Instagram at Eric Hersey, and you'll be able to see those pictures. I just posted those. Jim, how can people follow you?
well, okay. I am over on Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it this week. Likewise, Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and also over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And I guess now that's gonna wrap it up for this week's episode of the Epic Universal Podcast. So, by the way, if you want to know what else is going on at our podcast network here, stick around, and we've got a listing of all of the other shows and activities here at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Lon Testa. For animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our Epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcast and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.